The living room smelled faintly of lemon polish and roast chicken. On the mantel, the gold-plated school trophy gleamed beneath the soft yellow light. The one Danny had clutched all the way home from the ceremony. He had worked for months on the science fair project. Late nights soldering wires, testing circuits, even burning his fingers once. But now the trophy stood proudly, proof that all his effort had been worth it. Danny sat straighter on the couch, waiting for his parents to notice. His sister Emily sprawled in the armchair across from him, idly painting her nails. "Guess what?" Emily announced. She didn't wait for anyone to guess. "Coach said I might get a starting spot in the spring match. Can you believe it?" Their mother's eyes lit up as if Emily had just won the Nobel Prize. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. Starting spot. Oh, you'll be the star of the whole team." Their father chuckled. "That's my girl, always leading the pack." Danny shifted the trophy closer, nudging it forward so the engraved plate caught the light. Middle School Science Achievement Award, Daniel Winters. He cleared his throat. I got first place at the science fair. Out of the whole county." Silence fell for half a beat. His mother glanced at the trophy, then back at Emily. "That's nice, Danny," she said dismissively. "Emily, did Coach say you'd be playing midfield or forward?" "Forward," Emily said with a grin. Their father clapped his hands together. "Forward. That's where the stars play." Danny stared down at his lap, his cheeks burning. The trophy suddenly looked smaller, childish even. He thought of the endless afternoons hunched over his project while Emily practiced for soccer. He thought of Mr. Alvarez, the kind janitor who had slipped him scrap materials and told him, "You've got a mind for making things, kid." Danny forced a smile. "Yeah, forward. That's great." Emily smirked at him over the top of her magazine, as if to say, second best as always. When the conversation moved on, Danny leaned back on the couch, clutching the edge of a cushion like an anchor. He told himself it didn't matter. That one day, somehow, he'd make them see. But in that quiet moment, staring at his shining little trophy no one cared about, Danny knew something else too. Recognition in his house would never come easily. Chapter 2. The family business Saturday mornings began before sunrise, the sky still bruised with shades of violet when Danny climbed into his father's truck. Emily never came. Too busy with soccer, their mother always said. That was fine. For Danny, the warehouse was better than any playing field. The air inside smelled of machine oil and old cardboard, a scent that clung to his clothes long after he returned home. To most people, it was just storage and dust. To Danny, it was alive, a place where things moved, where hands built something bigger than themselves. "Keep up, boy," his father barked, already striding across the concrete floor. Danny jogged to keep pace, broom in hand. He swept aisles, checked deliveries against worn clipboards, and stacked cartons until his arms ached. Yet he loved it, every piece of it. Each task was a puzzle, and puzzles made sense. Not like that. A voice called out. Danny turned. Mr. Alvarez stood near a tower of boxes, gray hair tucked under a cap, sleeves rolled high over forearms corded with muscle. The foreman had been with the company longer than Danny had been alive. "Fragile stock," Alvarez said, nodding to the boxes. "If you grip from the sides, you'll crush the edges. Palms under, like you're lifting a baby bird." Danny shifted his hands carefully and lifted again. The box held steady. A small smile cracked Alvarez's weathered face. "See? You got the touch. Not everyone does." Warmth spread through Danny's chest. Praise didn't come often in his household. From Alvarez, it felt like sunlight through a cracked window. Later, Alvarez beckoned him over to the workbench. Papers, tags, and markers were arranged in precise stacks. Green means routine orders. Yellow, we're waiting on parts. Red is priority, Alvarez explained, tapping each pile. You keep this system straight, and chaos never wins. Business runs on order, Danny, not luck. Danny absorbed every word, nodding like a soldier memorizing orders. His father strode past then, phone pressed to his ear. He barely glanced at them. "Don't let the boys slow you down, Alvarez. He's just passing time here. Emily's the one with a future in leadership." The words struck like a hammer. Danny dropped his gaze, swallowing hard. But Alvarez straightened, his voice firm. "With respect, sir, this boy learns faster than most men twice his age. You should be proud." Danny's father waved dismissively, already lost in conversation. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then Alvarez put a heavy hand on Danny's shoulder. "Don't let anyone tell you you don't belong. You keep showing up, keep learning. The world has a way of noticing the ones who refuse to quit." That night, at dinner, Emily bragged about scoring a goal in practice. Their parents cheered, planning to frame her jersey when the season ended. Danny almost spoke of Alvarez, of the colors and codes, of how the man had said he belonged. But he caught himself. The words would fall flat in this house. So he kept quiet, pushing peas around his plate, while deep inside he promised himself something else. "One day, they'll have no choice but to see me." Chapter 3. Silent resentment. The summer air was heavy with the hum of cicadas when Danny sat on the back porch, knees pulled up, chin resting on them. Emily's laughter drifted from inside, mingled with their parents' voices. They were still talking about her soccer camp, the one that cost more than Danny's entire year of science projects combined. He stared at the trophy he'd left on the porch railing, the one no one had mentioned since the night he brought it home. Dust already clung to its base. "Why do you look like someone stole your lunch?" Danny turned. Sophie Ramirez leaned against the fence, her curls tied back in a messy ponytail, a book tucked under one arm. She lived 2 houses down and had a knack for appearing when he least expected it. "No one stole anything," Danny muttered. "Just nothing." Sophie hopped onto the railing beside him, balancing easily. "You're a terrible liar. What's wrong?" Danny hesitated, then shrugged. "Doesn't matter what I do. My parents only care about Emily." Sophie followed his gaze to the trophy. She tilted her head. "Is that yours?" He nodded. She picked it up, brushing away the dust. "First place? County-wide?" Her eyebrows rose. "That's huge, Danny. Why aren't they throwing you a parade?" He let out a bitter laugh. "Guess soccer goals are shinier than circuits and wires." Sophie studied him for a moment. "Then forget them. You don't need their parade. You just need to keep winning your own." Her words sank deeper than she probably intended. Danny looked at her, a little startled. No one had ever said that to him before. Not even Mark, his best friend. Inside, Emily squealed, their parents applauding some story she told. Danny clenched his fists, nails biting into his palms. Resentment simmered low in his chest, no longer just a passing ache. "Maybe one day," Danny said quietly. "I'll show them all." Sophie gave him a small, steady smile. "I think you already are. They just don't see it yet." For the first time that night, Danny's shoulders eased. Sophie didn't look at him like a shadow. She looked at him like someone worth noticing. Still, when the porch light flicked on and his mother's voice called for Emily, Danny slipped inside, trophy tucked under his arm. He wasn't ready to believe Sophie's words just yet, but he held on to them all the same, as if they might matter more in the long run than anything his parents ever said. Chapter 4. Dedication. The warehouse hadn't changed much since Danny was a boy, but he had. At 27, his shoulders had broadened, his hands were calloused, and his mind was sharp with years of experience. He walked the floor with a clipboard, not as the kid shadowing Mr. Alvarez anymore, but as the man others turned to when problems arose. "Shipment's late from the docks," one of the drivers told him. Danny scanned the records. "We'll reroute to the secondary supplier. Don't wait around. Move on the backup now." The man nodded and jogged off. Decisions came naturally to Danny now, honed through long hours and trial by fire. Clients asked for him by name. Employees trusted him. Even the older hands deferred to his judgment. At lunch, Alvarez clapped him on the back. "You're running this place already, whether your parents admit it or not." Danny smiled, though it didn't reach his eyes. His parents still called him the reliable one, as if he were a good pair of shoes, useful, durable, but not exceptional. Praise remained reserved for Emily, who breezed in occasionally to check on things, as she put it. She'd glance around the office, offer half-hearted advice, and vanish again. "She doesn't even know the difference between an invoice and a receipt," Danny muttered once. Alvarez only grunted. One day, the truth will be too big to ignore. Outside the office, Sophie waited, leaning against her car. She had built her own career in marketing, and sometimes their paths overlapped when her firm coordinated campaigns with the family business. "You look tired," she said, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Long day. Or just another day?" she teased gently. Then her expression softened. You know, if this were any other company, they'd already have her name on the door. Danny looked at her, a flicker of hope stirring despite himself. Maybe, just maybe, his time was finally coming. Chapter 5. The announcement the dining room was dressed for celebration. Linen tablecloth, polished silverware, a roast at the center steaming with herbs. Danny had been told it was a special family dinner. He sat straighter, pulse quickening. This was it. Tonight, they would finally acknowledge him, finally name him heir to the business he had bled himself into. His father raised a glass. "We have an announcement. Your mother and I have decided it's time to start thinking about the future of the company." Danny's heart pounded. Sophie's words echoed in his head. They'd already have your name on the door. His mother beamed at Emily. "And we've agreed. Your sister will be taking the reins." The room tilted. Danny blinked, certain he'd misheard. "What?" Emily smirked faintly, tried to appear modest. "They think I'm the best fit." Danny's chair scraped against the floor as he stood. "Best fit? She doesn't even work there. I've been running operations for years. I've kept the company afloat. Ask anyone on the floor." His father's expression hardened. "Danny, you've done well. But leadership is about vision, not grunt work. Emily has the presence, the charisma. You're better suited where you are." The words hit harder than any blow. All the late nights, the sacrifices, the loyalty, it all dissolved like smoke. Sophie, sitting beside him, reached for his arm, but he pulled away, voice raw. "So that's it? Years of my life, and I'm just the reliable pair of hands again?" His mother's eyes narrowed. "Don't be dramatic. We've made our decision." Danny's chest burned. He looked at Emily, basking in their approval, and something inside him snapped. "Then you can run your empire without me," he said. He dropped his napkin on the table and walked out, the roast's rich aroma sickening in his nostrils. Behind him, his parents called his name, but he didn't turn back. For the first time in his life, Danny wasn't going to settle for being second best. Chapter 6. Shattered loyalty. The night air hit Danny like a wave when he shoved open the front door. He didn't realize he was trembling until he fumbled his keys and they skittered across the porch. Inside, his parents' voices overlapped, sharp, surprised, offended. Emily's laugh floated thin and brittle, as if she'd been crowned and didn't know how to carry the weight. He didn't go back. Sophie caught up to him at the curb, heels clicking on the sidewalk. "Danny, hey, wait." He turned, eyes bright with a heat that wasn't anger so much as a bruise. "I can't do it, sophomore." "I know," she said, breath misting. "You shouldn't. I've given them everything." She stepped close, hands slipping around his forearms. "Then save the rest for yourself." He stared at her for a long second and nodded once, like a decision had clicked into place. "Tomorrow I resign." Morning brought a warehouse steeped in muscle memory, oil, cardboard, dust, but it felt like a different world. Danny walked straight to the office, printed letter in hand. Mark intercepted him at the bullpen door, cheeks flushed. "Dude, you can't just ghost on us after last night. Let it cool down." "It's not heat of the moment," Danny said, voice steady. "It's years." Mark pinched the bridge of his nose. "I'm with you, but my mortgage is with them." "I'm not asking you to follow me," Danny said. "I'm asking you to understand." Mark's jaw worked. He nodded, not happy, not arguing. "At least talk to Alvarez first." "I will." Inside the office, Mr. Alvarez stood at the window, hands clasped behind his back. He looked over, reading the decision on Danny's face before he saw the paper. "So," Alvarez said softly, "the boy who learned colors and order is ready to draw his own map." Danny's throat tightened. They made theirs. Alvarez took the letter, not to read it, but to weigh it as if it had mass. "You don't owe them your life to pay for their blindness." "If I stay, I'm complicit," Danny said. "If I leave, I'm a traitor." "The world will call you names no matter what," Alvarez said. "Choose the ones you can live with." The door opened. His father filled the frame, ties slightly askew. Annoyance lacquered into professionalism. Emily hovered behind him, a camera-ready expression of concern. His father's gaze fell to the letter in Alvarez's hand. "What is this?" "My resignation," Danny said. "Don't be ridiculous." His mother's voice arrived a beat later, a perfume of authority. "Family doesn't quit family." Danny held her eyes. "Family doesn't betray family." Emily stepped forward, palms out. "No one betrayed you, Danny. This is a direction change. You're great at grunt work," he finished for her, smiling without warmth. "I remember." His father let out a breath, like he'd been forced into a tedious negotiation. "You're emotional. Take a few days. You'll realize this is better for everyone." "I already realized something," Danny said, taking the letter back from Alvarez and placing it squarely on the desk. "I don't need to earn what you'll never give." Silence thumped through the room. Out on the floor, a forklift beeped in reverse, steady and indifferent. Alvarez broke the moment by offering his hand. Danny gripped it. The old man's smile was a weathered crescent. "Order the chaos, kid." Mark stood at the door when Danny came out. "So that's it. That's it." They hugged, quick and awkward, two ribs clacking like a dull bell. Mark's voice dropped to a whisper. "Text me later, just so I know you're okay." "I will." In the parking lot, the sun was barely up, but the day felt already used. Danny slipped behind the wheel and exhaled until his lungs felt scraped clean. His phone buzzed. "Sophie, coffee?" "And a plan." Danny typed back, "Yes." "Both." He drove away, the building shrinking in the rear view, the old sign a rectangle of memory. He didn't look back again. Chapter 7. Crossing over the competitor's lobby was glass and light, and quick-moving people who walked like they knew where they were going. Harbor and Finch Logistics was etched in steel behind reception, the letters crisp, unafraid. Danny Winters? A woman in a tailored blazer and no-nonsense ponytail approached, hand outstretched. "Nadia Chun. Ku. I've been hoping we'd have this conversation." Hoping. The word landed like balm. They sat in a conference room that smelled faintly of new carpet and ambition. Nadia didn't waste time. "I'm not going to ask why you're leaving. It's obvious from the way your clients talk about you and the way your family doesn't." She slid a folder across the table. "I'm going to ask what you need to do your best work." No one had ever asked him that. He opened the folder. The offer was more than fair. Senior operations manager with authority to reshape intake, routing, and client retention. Budget for a small team. Direct access to leadership. His eyes snagged on a line. KPIs owned by role, not inherited by politics. Nadia folded her hands. "I've seen your fingerprints on half the good ideas at Winters Distribution." Danny flinched at the name. "And I've watched them take the credit. You'll get your name on your work here. We do adult accountability." "What do you need from me first?" he asked. "Quick wins in 60 days, she said. "We hemorrhage time at intake and lose clients in the first 90 days. I want a triage system that prioritizes the right orders and a dashboard that lets us see trouble before it becomes loss. You build the bones. I'll make sure the organs get blood." He almost smiled. Green for routine, yellow for waiting on parts, red for priority. Nadia arched an eyebrow. "You color code your chaos?" "Always." "Good. Start Monday. Actually, start tomorrow." That evening, Danny and Sophie sat on a bench outside a corner cafe, coffees cooling between them. "So," she asked. "They value me," he said simply. Sophie's grin broke pure and bright. "Of course they do. I'll need to build a team." He added, brain already scaffolding structures. A data analyst, a floor lead who can translate numbers to motion, someone to handle client onboarding. "And a chair that doesn't squeak," she teased. He laughed, really laughed, and felt the sound replace something brittle in his chest. "I want to earn it, not to spite them, but because I want to see what I can do without permission." Sophie linked her arm through his. "Then do it. No apologies." By Friday, he had a draft triage protocol pinned to a whiteboard. Red, perishables and penalty-bound contracts. 2-hour response, manager alert. Yellow, orders awaiting parts or customs clearance. Daily ticklers, vendor escalation. Green, routine, auto-routed based on lane capacity. He mapped choke points like arteries. Intake to verification to routing to delivery confirmation. He sketched a dashboard by hand. clean, ruthless, honest. At the all hands that afternoon, Nadia waved him up. Everyone, meet Danny Winters. He's here to fix the slow leaks we've been pretending are normal. Polite laughter trembled through the room. Danny took the mic, palms dry. He didn't sell, he showed. 3 slides. The lost hours, the proposed triage, the projected ROI. No flourish. Just order translated to action. Questions came fast. He answered faster. When it was over, the applause surprised him. Not because it was loud, but because it sounded like belief. On his way back to his desk, a junior analyst jogged up. Hey, love the dashboard flow. I wanted to build something like that, but didn't know where to start. Start with me, Danny said. We're going to make it real. Chapter 8. The thriving 2 weeks in, the dashboard was live on a massive wall screen in ops. The colors pulsed with purpose. Every morning, Danny stood beneath them like a conductor, batonless and certain. Red lane 3 needs a swap, he said. Marco, move the freshwater pumps ahead of textiles. Penalties are uglier than delays. Gina, your vendor on yellow 5 is ghosting us. Switch to backup and document the change. And somebody please bring me proof of delivery on the Faulkner order before our lunch breaks. People moved. Things clicked. The hum of the floor changed from frantic to focused. At noon, Nadia leaned on the railing of the mezzanine, sipping bad coffee like it was champagne. Intake time is down 26%. Early days, but you were expensive. Am I earning it? She smiled. Every hour. Client emails began to read differently. Fewer apologies demanded, more thanks sent. A mid-sized manufacturer who'd been shopping around signed a 3-year deal. Nadia forwarded the note with a single line. You made this easy to say yes to. Danny pinned it to the edge of his monitor, not as a trophy, but as a calibration. This is what respect sounds like in writing. That afternoon, as the floor settled into its new rhythm, a familiar silhouette appeared at the entrance. Barrel chest, cap in hand, eyes scanning like a veteran returning to a battlefield. Mr. Alvarez? Danny said, halfway between disbelief and relief. Alvarez took off his cap, smoothing the brim. Thought I'd see if you were making a mess without me. How did why? The old man's smile didn't reach his tired eyes. Your sister held a meeting. Called us dead weight in front of new hires. I lasted through the coffee. Danny felt anger flare, old and newly irrelevant. I'm sorry. Don't be. Alvarez's gaze lifted to the dashboard on the wall. Red, yellow, green painted the room with quiet urgency. You kept the colors. They're yours, Danny said. I just scaled them. Alvarez nodded once. Then let me carry a corner of the weight again. Danny swallowed something that tasted like gratitude and history. I have a floor lead slot open. It's yours if you want it. I want it. They stood there a moment, 2 hands on a blueprint no one could see. Welcome to Harbor and Finch, Danny said, and meant welcome home. By the end of the month, the numbers weren't whispering, they were singing. On-time delivery ticked up. Penalties dropped. The red queue, once a stubborn streak, flickered to 0 twice in 1 week. Nadia called a short stand-up, clapped once, and nodded toward Danny without ceremony. No banners, she said. Just keep going. After the meeting, he texted Sophie. Wins today. Quiet ones the best kind. She replied with a photo. 2 paper cups, coffee sleeves marked with their initials. Come claim yours. He did, later, sitting on the trunk of her car as dusk turned the sky a deep blue. They didn't talk about his parents. They didn't need to. Progress had red, yellow, and green now, and every light was finally working in his favor. On the drive home, his phone buzzed on the passenger seat. A message from Mark. Mark, things are bad here. Emily's reorganizing every 5 minutes. People are jumping ship. Danny, I'm sorry. Mark, I might be next. I just need to know you don't hate me for staying. Danny pulled over, thumb hovering over the screen. He typed, erased, typed again. Danny, I don't hate you. I want you safe. Door's not closed. 3 dots pulsed. Then, Mark, thanks, man. Danny set the phone down and drove on, the city opening before him like a map he could finally read. He wasn't chasing approval anymore. He was building something that worked, that lasted. And as the dashboard lights glowed in his memory, steady and true, he realized the chapter he'd just finished wasn't about leaving at all. It was about arriving. Chapter 9. The fall begins. Emily called it Velocity 2.0, a reorg built out of buzzwords and arrows on a slide deck. Departments blurred, supervisors were swapped like chess pieces, and SOPs were replaced with slogans. On Monday, everyone was empowered. By Wednesday, 3 outbound lanes had stalled because the only person who knew the customs process had been laterally promoted to social media. Mark kept his head down and his notebook open. He'd survived chaos before. Bad software rollouts, delayed trucks, a freak flood that warped crates like driftwood. But this was different. The chaos wasn't an accident. It was the plan. Can you massage the fulfillment numbers? Emily asked, standing in the doorway with a coffee she hadn't paid for. Optics matter. Massage, Mark repeated. As in lie. As in, present our trajectory, she said, smiling like a billboard. We're pivoting. There will be bumps. Those bumps have invoices, he said quietly. She stared until the silence turned heavy. Don't make this adversarial, Mark. You're either with the future or you're not. He folded his notebook. I'm with the truth. The first big client to balk was a distributor they'd serviced for years. A misrouted international shipment sat in limbo because someone in the new structure had clicked the wrong bond category. Penalties mounted, patience thinned. When they finally got human on the phone, the voice on the other end was frigid. We're shopping around. A week later, they weren't shopping. They were gone. Mark saw the email come through after hours, the subject line plain as a verdict, transitioning accounts. He read it twice. The new provider, Harbor and Finch. He closed his eyes and pictured a wall-sized dashboard breathing red, yellow, green. He hoped Danny was on the other end of that transition, making it painless for the client. He hoped, selfishly, that someone in the world was doing this right. The next morning, Emily stood on a pallet to deliver an all-hands. We're tightening belts. This is natural turbulence. Our vision is intact. Behind her, payroll warnings blinked pale and insistent on a monitor no one had silenced. Chapter 10. Rivalry unfolds at Harbor and Finch. The transition meeting ran like a metronome. Danny walked the client through intake, routing, penalty shields, and check-ins. No fireworks, no charm offensive, just clarity. We'll start you on a 90-day high-touch plan, Danny said. Red gets a 2-hour response window. Yellow gets daily nudges. Green stays green. The client VP, cool, skeptical, nodded slowly. I was told you the reason Winters ran well for years. Danny didn't flinch. There were a lot of good people over there, he said. Some of them still are. Out in the ops bay, Mr. Alvarez leaned into a stack of manifests like they were old friends. Lane 4's going to snarl on Friday, he murmured. How do you know? Asked the junior analyst. I've been watching trucks longer than you've been watching cartoons, Alvarez said, and circled the date with his pen. We bend early, so we don't break late. By noon, the new client's first loads were out the door, staged with a kind of ordinary precision that always felt like magic from the inside. Back at Winters, Emily fired off directives that contradicted each other, then scheduled a morale pizza party. Half the staff skipped it to finish the backlog. Mark stayed late to clear customs on a mess he hadn't created. At 9:13 p.m., he sent Emily a summary. Steps taken, steps needed, risks. At 9:14, she replied with a single sentence. Be proactive, not negative. On Friday morning, a rumor trickled through the floor. Another legacy client was taking meetings with Harbor and Finch. Emily marched into the bullpen, chin lifted. Anyone caught communicating with the competition will be terminated immediately, she announced. We're a family. Mark stared at his screen until the words stopped ringing. He didn't bother to point out that, in his experience, families didn't threaten to starve you if you spoke to your friends. Chapter 11. Crumbling walls payroll slipped by a day, then 2. Vendors started requesting prepay. The copier jammed, and no one could figure out who had permission to call the maintenance contract. It's just a cash-tight week, Emily told the floor leads. We're right-sizing. At his desk, Mark opened his banking app and did the math on how long he could float his mortgage. He texted Danny, typed forget it and deleted it, then typed again. Mark, if I left, would you even want me? The dots pulsed. Then, Danny, yes. When you're ready. No pressure. A meeting was called for noon. The email subject line said clarity and culture. Everyone filed into the warehouse, where Emily stood under an outdated motivational banner. Teamwork makes the dream work. We're eliminating roles that don't align with our agility goals, she announced. This is not about individuals. It's about the future. She read names off a list. People went pale. Some cursed under their breath. Kaplan from receiving, 22 years, slumped against a stack of shrink-wrapped pallets like the air had gone thin. When she said Mr. Alvarez, a murmur rippled through the room and died when folks remembered Alvarez had already left. Then she said Mark Jensen. The room went silent. Reason? He asked, voice flat. Undermining leadership, she said, and misalignment with our vision. He stared at her for a long moment, then nodded as if she'd confirmed the weather. I need 15 minutes to document the handoff, he said. You can clear your desk, Emily replied. Security will escort you. It was a man named Security, but not a security job. Jose for maintenance, eyes wet. I'm sorry, man. It's okay, Mark said, and meant it. It was always going to end like this. By 1:30, he stood in the parking lot with a banker's box and a sweater he'd forgotten he owned. He looked up at the winter sign, the paint chipped in places the family never noticed. He took a picture, not for nostalgia, but as a record of a place he had outlived. At 1:31, he texted Danny a single word, ready. By 3 o'clock, he sat in a clean conference room at Harbor and Finch while Nadia slid him an offer. Danny says you know how to see around corners, she said. We like that here. He didn't try not to cry. He let it happen quietly, a release valve opening. Thank you, he said, and the gratitude felt like oxygen. When he stepped onto the ops floor, he saw the colors. Red, yellow, green, breathing. Danny crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled him into a rough hug. Welcome home, Danny said. Chapter 12, Desperation. They came on a Tuesday, all 3 of them. Father, mother, Emily. The receptionist called up with a delicate voice, the kind used for emergencies and celebrities. Danny met them in a small glass-walled meeting room that looked out on the beating heart of Harbor and Finch. He didn't offer them coffee. He didn't sit first. His father's voice was that same lacquered professionalism Danny had finally learned was just a gloss. We need a consultant, he said. Short term, to stabilize. You know the rhythms. His mother wore her pitying expression, the one she'd used on him since he was 7, and crying felt like a personal offense to her. We made a mistake, she said, with the practiced cadence of someone who'd rehearsed the line to sound brave. Not in choosing Emily, in how he spoke to you. Emily kept her eyes on the floor, as if the carpet might defend her. This isn't about me, she murmured. It's entirely about you, Danny said, not unkindly. His father spread his hands. We can make this right, son. There's no version where I go back, Danny said. Not as a consultant, not as a band-aid, not as an apology tour. You'd let the business your grandfather built die, his mother demanded, the pity turning sharp. I didn't let anything die, he said. I carried it as long as I could. Emily finally looked up. What do you want me to say? That you weren't ready, Danny said. That they did you no favors handing you a crown without a map. A beat passed. Out on the floor, someone cheered, the sound of a red lane rolling to green. His father tried new tack. Then sell to us. Your loyalty. 6 months. Premium rate. Mr. Alvarez appeared in the doorway, as if summoned by blood pressure. He didn't come in. He just stood with his hands in his pockets, gaze level, the quiet anchor Danny had used for years. Danny shook his head. You're not asking for my help. You're asking for my silence while you pretend. His mother stood. You've changed. No, he said. I stopped asking you to. They left without shaking hands. In the hall, Sophie leaned against a pillar, watching. You okay? Yes, he said, surprised to find it true. Good, she said. Because I ordered cake. He laughed. For what? For our 3-month reduction in penalty fees, she said. And because cake helps after boundary setting. They ate it with forks stolen from the break room, standing by the glass, watching the colors. Danny let the sweetness sit on his tongue until it matched something inside him he hadn't had a name for. Peace, maybe, or just the absence of hunger. Chapter 13. Refusal. The auction notice went out on a gray morning. Winter's distribution. Assets to be liquidated. Forklifts, office furniture, pallet racks, a rolling ladder with a dent in the third rung. The building wasn't in the notice, but anyone could see where this was headed. His parents called that night. He didn't answer. Emily texted Sophie, which was clever and low. Emily, he won't pick up? Please. Sophie, boundaries apply to middlemen, too. The next day, Danny drove to the old building and parked across the street. He didn't go in. He watched people walk out with clipboards and flashlights, tagging history with removable stickers. His father spotted him through the open bay and crossed the road. Up close, he looked smaller, as if bad decisions ate muscle. "This is what you wanted?" he asked. Not angry, curious, like he'd finally spotted the twist. "No," Danny said. "It's what you chose." His father looked past him at the skyline. "We were hard on you because we knew you could take it." Emily, she needed favor. She needed honesty, Danny said. "So did I. We're still family," his father said, last card played. "Then I wish you well," Danny replied. As family. He got back in the car. His father didn't move. Danny left him there, a man on a curb holding the edges of a story that had never been true. That night, he lay awake and tried on the idea of forgiveness like a coat. It fit. It was warmer than he expected, but it didn't change the address of his life. In the morning, he texted Emily. "Danny, I forgive you. I'm not coming back." Emily, "I don't know how to be without their approval." He typed and deleted a dozen replies. Finally, "Danny, start with your own." The dots appeared, vanished. No answer came. That too was an answer. Chapter 14. A new family. Nadia announced a half-day Friday. Not for ping pong or trust falls. Harbor and Finch didn't do theater. Just a cookout in the loading bay, grills wheeled between lanes, folding tables balanced on pallets. Someone brought a Bluetooth speaker. Someone else brought a dog and a bandana. Danny stood back and watched his team, laugh with their mouths open. Mark flipped burgers like he'd been promoted to grill captain by a benevolent god. Mr. Alvarez whittled skewers to fit a too small pan because of course he did. To the penalty fee diet, Nadia said, raising a soda can. 10 consecutive weeks under target. Cheers. Someone clanged a serving spoon against an aluminum tray. The dog barked. The colors glowed on the wall behind them, steady as vital signs. Sophie joined Danny at the edge of the crowd, paper plate overloaded, mischievous. "I told them you like extra pickles," she said. He bumped her shoulder with his. A dangerous truth to release. She set the plate on a crate and turned to face him. "I have another." "Oh, I love you," she said simply. No flourish. Just order translated to action. The floor tilted in the good way, like standing on a ship that had finally found the right wind. "I love you too," he said. Later, with twilight pooling under the loading dock, he pulled a small box from his pocket. He hadn't planned to do it here, between a forklift and a stack of shrink wrap, but planning had never contained his real life very well. He opened it. The ring caught the last light like a promise. Sophie's hands flew to her mouth. She laughed, then cried, then laughed again. "Yes," she said, before he could stumble through a speech. Obviously, yes. The cheer that went up could have launched rockets. Mark hooped. Alvarez wiped his eyes and pretended it was the smoke. Nadia shook her head, smiling. "No banners, just keep going." Danny slid the ring on and looked around at the faces that had carried him when blood didn't. Family wasn't an accident, he realized. It was a practice. Chapter 15. Peace. 2 months later, the winter sign came down. A crew in hard hats and high-visibility vests loosened bolts while a crane sighed. The letters had been up for decades. They didn't want to go. Finally, they yielded, wobbling in slow motion, then lowering into a cradle of straps. Danny watched from across the street again, hand wrapped around a paper cup. He thought he might feel triumph. He didn't. He felt a quiet click, like a book closing on the right page. His phone buzzed. A photo from Mark, the ops wall at Harbor and Finch, Today's dashboard, a wash of green with a single, manageable yellow. Beneath it, a caption, not bad for a Tuesday. Another buzz. Sophie, do we want the blue mugs or the gray ones for the registry? He smiled. Mr. Alvarez joined him on the sidewalk, hands in his jacket pockets. End of a chapter, the old man said. Yeah. You going to bid on any of the old equipment? Danny shook his head. We have what we need. They stood there in companionable silence until the truck with the sign pulled away. The building's facade looked naked, then oddly honest without its story pinned on. Coffee? Alvarez asked. Always. Back at Harbor and Finch, Danny paused at the mezzanine rail and watched the floor. People moved with purpose. Names were said in gratitude. Problems were handled before they became penance. He took a breath and felt the shape of his life settle. The work, the team, the woman he loved, the man who'd taught him colors, the friend who'd chosen truth. An email popped up on his screen. New client inquiry, referred by the distributor who'd left Winters first. The subject line read, "You come highly recommended." He answered the way he answered everything now, clearly, completely, without apology. As afternoon light slid across the wall and the dashboard kept breathing its quiet colors, Danny understood the simplest part of the ending he'd earned. He was no longer second best. He was simply, finally, himself.
If you enjoyed this story, hit the like and subscribe buttons. It helps our channel and you'll get to enjoy many more stories like this one.